Okay, welcome to the Agile Leadership Camp video cast. I've got Dan Levenson, Senior Vice President from Agile Six. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Great. You're going to be one of our lightning speakers. And before you spend a minute telling us what your topic's going to be, we'd love to hear a little bit about you and your company. Why don't you go ahead?
Sure. So I'm Dan Levenson, Senior Vice President of Digital Services at Agile Six. I've been with Agile Six for going on just about 2 months now. Prior to that, I worked at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services as a contracting officer and digital service advisor. And in the advisor role and also as the contracting officer role, really focused on bringing an agile approach to acquisition. Government, there's a lot of kind of low-hanging fruit as far as things that can be kind of solved or gains can be made, and spent a lot of time kind of working with program level teams there, just generally going towards more outcome-based kind of requirements and focusing on delivering value. And at Agile Six, as a company, we really see ourselves as a full spectrum digital service company. From my time, I spent 7 years within, inside the government. Understand that, just delivering great software, great technology or product isn't always enough. The government needs help on how do you buy value? And then once you have a delivery team that can deliver value, how do you measure value on the back end? So we have, experience working as Agile coaches at CMS and other agencies. Of course, experience in the Agile Acquisition space, and then also as the Agile software delivery vendor as well.
That's great. Much needed. Like I was saying earlier, we do a lot of work with state governments also, and they are really struggling with this question. So if you could share with us, you're going to have about 10 minutes to tell all your closest friends and family a little bit about Agile Acquisition. Could you give us some highlights of what your talk's going to be about?
Sure, absolutely. So what I'd really like to speak about is kind of the differentiation between Agile Acquisition and just acquisition for Agile services. As Agile, has taken on many meetings, but as it becomes more of a thing across government, and various agencies are kind of transitioning to a more Agile approach, I find that there's kind of a misconception where people think that if they're just putting out a procurement or acquisition to buy, an Agile team or Agile delivery team from a vendor, then that in of itself is Agile Acquisition. Right. Whereas I really see Agile Acquisition is really about Agile values. It's about being collaborative. That's with program offices, with vendors, who I really see those two as kind of the main users of contracts or solicitations. And then also being transparent, being willing to put out draft documentation, put out things for comment and feedback from the vendor community. Understanding there's a reason why we're paying vendors good money to come help us and do this work, because they should be experts in the area. So let's make sure that we have input from them. And other values, of course, having tight feedback loops. Let's not be afraid to, I'm not afraid to say failure sometimes. Let's not be afraid to try some things. They may not all work.
That's the best thing that could happen, right?
Exactly, and that's from there. That's how we have validated learning and then innovation from there. So I really just look forward to speaking kind of the differentiation there and sharing some things that we did at CMS and with US Digital Service, where I worked with them closely as well, that I think really worked, and what's kind of needed to kind of keep pushing this movement forward.
Right. It sounds like you're going to be talking a little bit about projecting Agile values across the entire supply chain.
Exactly. I think Agile values, and to me, you can't really separate human-centered design from Agile values. Having that human-centered approach is really kind of inherent within Agile. So speaking to that a little bit as well, and when you're going out and designing an acquisition, and whether it's the users or as far as the acquisition or the users of whatever product or service that you're buying, making sure you're understanding them kind of as humans and from that human-centered approach. I find often that government personnel and contracting officers, because you're not really interacting and communicating with vendors and teams as much, you almost see them as just having like robots on a bench they can just turn on and get ready to work. And, unfortunately, fortunately or unfortunately, that's not the world we live in now.
Well, great. I'm really looking forward to having you at the camp. It sounds like we're going to have a meeting of the minds. A lot of the things that you're saying, I totally agree with, and looking forward to hearing you speak at the event. So Dan, May 3rd in Washington, D.C. at Agile Leadership Camp. We'll look forward to seeing you there.
Awesome. Very excited. Thanks so much.
All right.